It's all such a great song. Such a great start to the show as well. Gets us in the right sort of tempo, eh, Sean?
You can never ever go wrong with Bittersweet Symphony.
No, you really can't. Even though the guy's the most emo guy in the music video and he walks on the street barging ladies out the way.
It is a kind of eerie music video as well, this song. Anyway.
Interesting story about that song. The sample was stolen from the Rolling Stones, apparently.
Yes, that's right.
There was a court case and all kinds of stuff on the back of that song.
And the Stones sued and won.
Yeah, the Stones actually sued the Verve for taking a sample and making Bittersweet Symphony.
That's just
mean. It's
just so mean.
If they'd just gone for a collaboration, that's so necessary. Anyway, this isn't a music show. This is a sports show.
Yeah, what was going on there?
And right now we have sporting headlines to kick us off. Sure, I don't know how much of this Vodacom Cup stuff you've been kind of following. I'm going to go with little from my side, but the Limpopo Bulls. Now, I don't know if any of you have actually heard about the Limpopo Bulls. It's essentially a development side from the Blue Bulls area is quite vast, and they do call upon various tracts of land for talent. So it's a development team. They it's in their first season of real top flight rugby. But now this is just give you some stats before we actually go into these guys. Played 7, lost 7.
Yeah.
5 of those losses were cricket scores. Literally, people had registered 100 plus points against them. Their average points conceded per match 111. Now,
the average points difference is 114, I think. Something mad. Something mad. They got a points difference of minus 749, I think.
Yeah. I don't know where to go with this. They've scored 3 tries, but they've conceded 119.
It's been 119 tries. That's an insane number. That's insane.
That's crazy. The Pumas beat them 154-0. The Lions beat them 161-3 this last weekend, with Anthony Fulming scoring 9 tries by himself. Their sister side didn't have any mercy on them either. 110-0. The Bulls actually beat them. Interesting. Like, I'm all for these sort of development sort of franchises popping up. Obviously, it's a step in the right direction of future talent. But wow, I mean, those are pastings, huh?
Well, it doesn't take an expert to figure out that these guys just weren't ready.
No,
so
spirit broken.
You have to prep them to some degree. I mean, look. I don't think getting thrashed helps anybody.
No, not the slightest. Not even close.
So I'm all for spreading it.
Yeah.
And it'll be an area that should be worth investigating to get more sport in this country.
Sure.
But really, that type of thing. Oh man, it's just. But a weird part of me wants them to get televised. A weird sick part. The Popo Blue Bulls haven't been televised as far as I know.
Maybe that's where they were going wrong.
Maybe that's it. Maybe they just haven't had a big stage to perform on.
Yeah. They want some coverage. But it's interesting because obviously the Kings are doing better than everyone thought in Super Rugby. So there's and then they always talked about as this hotbed of talent. There could be talent up there, but there's no history of talent really in those sort of regions. So a work in progress. They're back next year. Shame, poor guys.
Are they back next year? They're confirmed.
So far.
Okay.
Oh,
you never know. It's confirmed as a relative term. It's sorry.
No, of course. Or just slightly more positive rugby things. Well, maybe it is actually a negative. It seems the overseas clubs are now targeting Free State star Willie Leroux. Now, personally for Willie, I think good for him. Go overseas, make some cash, play rugby, be a star. Because I don't think Heineke Meyer is going to call upon his talents, of which he does have many.
I don't think he will either.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll call upon it. Let's ignore we think about Willie Leroux for a second. But I mean, the Cheetahs...
Say Willie, Sean.
Sorry?
Willie. It's pronounced
Willie.
Willie.
Did I call him Willie? That's not on. That's not on. I apologize to everyone involved. No, but looking at Willie Leroux for a second, I mean, the Cheetahs play to his strengths.
Yeah.
And let him go to it. Whereas for the Springboks to play to his strengths if he was in the team would take a fair bit of reinvention of the wheel from the way we go about it.
It would, and this is why Cyril Pretorius will never be a Bok as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
He would be another guy who's probably excluded just from the outset, looking at how they play and what they'd have to do too much and change their games too much to be able to make it in the team.
Sure.
And do we want guys like these to change their games to make it to the Springbok team? It's a debatable thing. But the bottom line is it really does look like a no-brainer for Sorrel to go overseas, doesn't it?
Yeah, Willie, sure.
Willie.
He'll obviously make a hell of a lot more money than the Cheetahs are paying him. Cheetahs historically don't have the cash that other teams do, and they definitely haven't got the cash to compete with the French sides. But, my personal theory is in this, that Heineke Meyer is looking to set a structure, okay? That was his whole thing last year. We're making a structure, a formation, we're going to be solid. But these are the future players for the Boks. We should be looking to have guys like Willie Leroux running things in the future. He can play at fly-off, he can play at wing, he can play at fullback. I think our backs need to be dynamic. We're always going to have big, strong, sturdy forwards, okay? We'll always have a 10 who can kick pretty well and a scrummer who can clear his lines. Although we seem to have lost that last bit last year. Anyway, cool. Base your team around that. But let's also look at guys like him. Let's not leave him out like this just because he plays with a free spirit.
I mean, there's been so many criticisms of South African rugby by South Africans because, of course, we're passionate about that. We adhere too much to our preordained plans and we pick certain set players to pick a certain set plays. But there is a real argument when you look at guys at Willie LaRue just to say, just pick your best 15 and figure out a game plan from there based on these guys' strengths.
Exactly. These guys, after all, aren't robots. I'm pretty sure they can adapt. It hasn't been completely taken out of their heads.
Yeah, and to maybe be a tad more malleable with the way we go about things. I don't know. But anyway, it's going to be the first of many defections because, I mean, not everyone can get picked for the Springboks. And you're starting to think that everyone who's not going to get picked but has some talent is just going to go over for the buck. It's just getting more and more.
Well, after watching Saracens versus Toulon on the weekend, I did actually try raise my game and watch some of this.
I think there were 6 South Africans in the Saracens match 22. That's if you exclude Brad Barrett and Maurice Botha.
Oh yeah. I must have worried about the flags being flown. It's just Johnny Wilkinson scores all 24 points in a winning. Come on, it was a sunny day. Run the ball. Keep it better than that.
No, absolutely. I thought the game was far too tight than it needs to be.
Well, look,
even when I was running away from Saris,
it's knockout rugby and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
that's true.
Let's get on to some more local rugby. For the Stormers, Janchis and Etzebeth back on the bench. They will definitely get some game time, I would imagine, against the Blues. And really big game for the Stormers because with the Bulls and Cheetahs, as we spoke about last week, kind of steering ahead, everything's kind of must win. It's must win, and then you got to hope that the derbies go their way in order to qualify because they really are even though they're still in touch points wise, you got to look at the schedule and think it's against them as it is for the Sharks.
Absolutely. I mean, there's still 3 overseas games to go for the Stormers here.
Yeah.
As much as you want to tell
one of them is the Rebels, though.
Yes, that is true. Well, looking at them on Sunday, who knows? Sometimes
the Crusaders are playing possum with us. Seriously, they dick around with these Aussie sides, and then suddenly it comes to our boys, 20 points.
The Muhammad Ali hang on the ropes, and then bang, knockout in the knockouts. No, but looking at the Stormers, they've got a big schedule coming up, and as much as we want to say that they must look at it a game at a time, it's hard not to look at the log and just to see where you are as a player. So you look at yourself. So yes, 2 wins in a row. They're still sitting at 10th here.
Yeah.
All the buys finished where you get freebie points. So it's hard not to think of every game as a cup final at this point. I mean, losing to the Blues on Saturday is going to make the playoffs look way more remote than it is. Whereas a win will keep them in the hunt. So it's going to be do or die all the time for the next while, and I think this is the most important Stormers fixture in a while.
To put a silver lining onto a very obvious cloud, and good point, Stormers have a great record against the Blues.
They do have a good
really
record. They do. It seems to. It seems to have bring out the kind of running rugby aspect to them in the past.
And suddenly,
I don't think it's going to happen this year because they were
last week's game. An indication of that. You're
that
right.
was just one big arm wrestle by the Stormers there.
You know what? It was the funny thing about that was that the Stormers have found new ways to win tight games. They had to charge a kick down.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Good for Brian. Mucho away.
I'm not sure if Brian. It was right on the stroke of half time.
It was,
I'm not sure if Brian was charging down the kick or if he was just over eager to run and avoid that halftime interview.
No, I think he was running in order to get the halftime interview. Everyone needs press nowadays. The British and Irish Lions squad.
You have to add in the Irish Lions, otherwise the Irish boys get very, very annoyed at you.
Yeah, I know. And also when you just say Lions, then the local guys get all excited that there's a squad announcement that people should worry about. British and Irish Lions squad announced at 12 o'clock by Warren Gitface Gatland.
Yes.
He's still one of my least favorite people in sport. Or whiny Git.
It's a bit of a chip and a golder on the shoulder.
Never
there.
liked that. Anyway, but it must be the hardest thing to coach because you've got 4 teams.
Yes,
three and a bit. Let's not be honest with Scotland. Come on.
Yeah, I think I made a squad. I think I thought of 4 Scotland players in the squad of 36,
and they're going to carry bags all to it.
And that's a good point. Probably only one of them has a real chance of kind of starting the game. You know.
But look, at the same time, no disrespect to their talent or as a nation, but I think holding a bag in a British and Irish Lions training shirt is right up there with actually running on for the team. It's a huge honour to get involved with this.
No, absolutely. It's a little. One thing about the Australian tours of the British and Irish Lions these days is the midweek games are going to take a far lesser hue than if they tour New Zealand or South Africa.
Completely.
With the Wallabies unavailable and the fact that they don't have that many clubs provinces around.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to create 2 to make 5 for
Exactly,
Super Rugby.
they have to create it. So it's literally, they're rounding up the dregs. It's going to be like a Quade Cooper fight in rugby terms.
There's a game I haven't got the schedule on me, but there's my game between the New South Wales and Queensland combined country districts 15.
Ooh, the moment you hear the words country districts,
You know it's going to get dodge.
you just know a lot of the guys are drinking before the match. Given, probably smoking at half time as well.
Yeah. So the one thing about this tour is I'm not sure how much the midweek games are going to have in terms of getting into contention for the test team.
Sure.
So Gatland might have to just pick guys with the idea of all 30 of these guys are really fighting for a test spot.
Yeah. Well, it'll be tough.
Like-
It'll be interesting. Look, I think we can definitely critique it when it comes out. But the big talk now is: do you bring Johnny into the team? I say no. He's past it, I think. It's just a desperate call. I think with Farrell being such a young and upcoming talent, why snub him?
It's a real dividing thing, though, because look, 2 points is you're not exactly building for the future with the Lions tour. It's not about building for a World Cup or
No,
anything.
it's not. You're
It's
right.
a World Cup series now. Secondly, just looking at it on Saturday, I know you don't want to pick on one performance alone, but Johnny has had a big year at Toulon. We've done really well. He's been really instrumental, captaining the team and leading them to the Heineken Cup final.
Yeah,
and just looking at Saturday's performance of which the media in the UK tried to pump as Farrell versus Wilkinson, Lions spot, etc. But just looking at the two go at it, I don't know how you justify Farrell getting ahead of him when we're looking at it. I mean, there's
Fair points,
complications
Sean.
here.
Fair points, you make many.
All the Brits in France have a slight issue in terms of being available for the Lions squad. Depends what Gatland thinks about it. The opening game is a Barbarians game in Hong Kong, which clashes with the French top 14 final, which a lot of guys like Wilkinson will be involved in. And
Sure.
that's caused a little bit of a damper if how disruptive it's going to be to squad team building for guys that are going to miss the start of the tour, which is, of course, key with the Lions because they have to build a team from scratch.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well-
There's lots of arguments pro and against Johnny Wilkinson. I think I'm leaning towards pro, to be honest. And I'd have him on.
Well,
I think I'm
sure.
having him on my bench.
I tell you what,
Dropkick specialist.
with British media being what it is, from basically this day onwards until that final test is played, there'll be news every single week coming into our show. There is just so much contention around the selections because is the coach siding with his origin? Okay, Gatland's a Kiwi, but he's got Welsh ties, obviously being the Welsh coach. So the whole Warburton captaincy issue. Are they going to play Toby, Fijian guy, Tongan guy on the back?
Yeah.
So there's all these little things that pop up. I think at the moment that squad gets announced today, there's going to be huge stories coming out.
And it looks like it looks pretty confirmed. It looks like Warburton's going to be named captain today. That
There's
seems
talk
like,
about taking that ginger from Ireland or O'Driscoll
Paul O'Connell
because they're experienced.
yeah, they'll probably be in the squad today. But one slightly interesting about that is this will be Warburton's first Lions tour. And that'll be the first time that a Lions captain will be captain on his first tour
Yeah, good
since
for him.
1983.
Good for him. Champions League crunch time this evening. The German teams gave the Spanish ones a good tapping last week. 4-0 was Bayern Munich over Barcelona, and 4-1 was Dortmund over Real Madrid. Now they go to Spain, where they need to hold on, ideally.
Yeah, look, I'm close. If you're going to write off one of these schedules, I think the 4-0. I'm actually, oddly enough, I'm right in the. Who would have thought that come to the second leg, I might be prepared to write off Barcelona for not only being halfway through the tie. But I think Bayern Munich holding on to a lead, even though it's the new camp, a 4-0 lead.
I don't think it's going to happen to Barca, yeah.
I think scoring four unanswered is going to be such.
And there's injury cloud over Messi again, even though he helped them sort of secure that draw on the weekend.
The one where it'll be interesting to hear Keegan's thoughts later. The one where I think we've got more of a chance of a turnaround is the Real Dortmund one, for the obvious reasons that they have an away goal.
They
and
do
it's
have an
4-1
away
in
goal,
aggregate.
that's key.
But if you get an early goal, and I mean Real can get an early goal, of course they can.
Of course.
I mean 2 goals suddenly looks like nothing.
Yep.
And then the nerves start to hit it.
The nerves start hitting, and suddenly Ronaldo's running a little bit faster on the ball, and before you know it, Well, look, we're going to get all the thoughts with Keegan a little bit later in our soccer chat. Kurtley Beale is back at training this past week. Good for him. Obviously he's still in line for the Lions tour, but there's no confirmation on when he'll actually start again for the Rebels.
I think it was as predicted on the show, really, as we thought the incident was a bit mountain out of a molehill situation when he was.
But it's a history. That's basically what it is with him.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot was made of his kind of enforced hiatus away from rugby, but we always thought it would take a couple of weeks. As it turns out, it took about a month.
Yeah.
and he's back in contention, and see if he'll play good rugby. He'll definitely be in the Lions mix, definitely. Whether Cooper will be or not is a different story, as I think he still needs to apologise for the toxic comments that he made about the squad.
But Sean, something that I find interesting about that whole Aussie Brat Pack is that Beale, O'Connor and Cooper, I think all their best positions are fly off. O'Connor's dicked around, Beale's thrown all over the place. Quaid obviously sticks on to number 10 because he can't play the other ones. But I think this is the big problem with all those talents, is that 10 is all their best positions. You put them elsewhere, they start wavering a bit.
It's very, very true. I mean, looking at James O'Connor on the weekend, he was fantastic at 10 against the Crusaders.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a real argument that says that 10 has to be O'Connor's best position. Although he's got to settle, he might have to settle for like doing a job at wing or fullback, as they say. But picking the Australian backline, I think, is one of the hardest things to do in rugby.
Well, it's harder than trying to make them behave in bars, yeah. Anyway, Sean, you wanted to, and I'm going to name and shame you here, you wanted to close off headlines with an IPL story. Talking about Chris Gale's 100.
I think we do need to at least bring up.
Okay, first question, was Lalit Modi bowling?
No, I think the score might have been a little lower if Lalit Modi was bowling. There were some real pies thrown at Chris Gale. Just to hit the numbers a bit. I mean, so I think most of you would have heard by now, it was 175 not out of 66 balls. With the century coming off 30 balls, the second 50 from 50 to 100 came off 13 balls.
Wow.
I think that's just insane. That to me was the craziest of all the stats. But looking at that period of the game, it just had IPL written all over it. I think it was Aaron Finch was the captain of the Warriors, brought himself on to bowl, little left arm orthodox pies. And when Chris Gale is in,
Danny Morrison must have been in a pool of of horrible adjectives just flowing up from his mouth.
It's like, well, it was an insane innings from Gale. Of course it was, and this is what the IPL is about. This kind of thing. And while he was incredible, it really wasn't the most extraordinary bit of cricket I've seen, I got to say.
Well, it was done in a sea of gold and orange, whatever other shirts they've got. Sean, we're going to wrap up the headlines there, because if we have any more time on IPL, I think I might just quit radio. Seeing as I've only been here for like 5 minutes, it'll be a terrible start to my life. We've got Foo Fighters now. This is a request that goes out to Maz. Maz supplying us the back end. Foo Fighters, Learn to Fly. We're taking in-studio requests today because our theme is best of Ballz. So I'm rummaging through the playlist, and we're taking in-studio requests. Simon Hill, station manager, has just walked in, and I asked him what he wanted. So we're going to play his track a little bit later. It's funny how you can actually learn a lot about our people with their song choices.
I know.
I'm not quite sure what to make of Simon's, but it's coming up soon. Sean, we spoke about off air about Sachin Tendulkar turning 40. Now, if you are watching this visually, we've got a little a visual here of an article that I wrote yesterday about Sachin. 40 reasons why Sachin should retire. Now, look, there's been a lot of talk about his overall retirement. Of course, he has retired from ODIs. He doesn't do the T20 stuff. He basically hangs around for tests, where he comes in at 4, makes the crowd cheer for 20 minutes, and generally just scratches around for 20 or 30.
Yeah, well, he does the IPL, which is a little
Sean,
sad.
Stop it. I've asked you already. We had enough of that earlier. What's got into you today? No big words, talking about IPL. God, don't see you for 7 days, you change man.
Well, I'll up it on both levels, okay? No more IPL, promise.
So let's have a little go into this scandalous self-promotion from my side here on the bounce.co.za. 40 reasons why he should retire. I'm just going to scan through a couple of them. Obviously, he's 40, hasn't scored Test 100 since January 2011. A couple of other things that I think, and now this might seem that I'm taking the piss, but in order for the IPL to survive, I think he needs his own team. The little Mumbai Masters. Get that in, IPL sorted for at least another 3 to 4 years, which is eternity in T20 cricket.
It's brilliant. Which kills two birds with one stone, because the Mumbai Indians is my least favourite name.
Yeah, exactly. That's not interesting.
It's like, how long was that creative board meeting to come up with the Mumbai Indians?
Yeah, it's in India. You will have Indians playing for you.
It's like, you talk down to the public a little, please.
No, I think he should retire so Jacques Kallis has a sporting chance to get the rest of the runs to be the most or the highest Test run scorer. Fair?
No, definitely.
Give him 2 years to do it. I mean, it's like 2,300 or something runs. It's a big ask. I don't think it's going to happen. But give him a chance.
Of course it'll happen. Shark's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but Jacques bowls as well. And he's also got the weight of a new hairstyle, the nation. I think
you see, all these questions about what we do after Jacques Kallis presupposes incorrectly that he's mortal.
We're not asking questions about aftershock colours. That's like saying the world's gonna end 2012. It's silly. I think Sachin should also host cricketing version of The Apprentice, and then when Ravi Shastri's in, he can be fired. After which the exit interview will be Shastri saying that was not what the doctor ordered. He should retire because it'll be quite awkward when he gets dropped for his son in 2018. Of course, young Arjun Tendulkar, he is making waves in age group cricket right now. Talk of nepotism, but that's kind of natural. David Warner averaged more than him in the last Test series. That's also another reason to turn.
That says so much, doesn't
hang
it?
up the pads. Nathan Lyon. Well, when Nathan Lyon starts dismissing you on various occasions for another reason. Wrong side of 39. Yeah, look, there's a couple of good reasons here. And I think one of the best ones is that it's time for him to actually do the honourable thing and go onto Twitter and, like all other retired greats, just mouth off about things. You know, Ian Botham's pretty good at it. Shane Warne has his ups and downs. Dean Jones isn't really clever enough to do it properly.
He's always just been such a nice guy, Sachin, throughout, well, forever. We need to unleash his inner beast, you know, just get bitchy with other cricketers. Come on, get in there.
That's not a bad thing, I tell you what, it's interesting. I think he should go and sort of mentor Rohit Sharma, another prodigious talent. I think people saw him as being a pretender to his throne. He's never kicked on. Go help Rohit, Sachin. Most of the guys he plays against weren't born when he made his Test debut. That's also a sheer sign he's probably give it a break. And another one is that he gets all this endorsement money, okay? Sachin, I think, has got as much money as Tiger does, maybe even more. It hasn't been confirmed because I think tax and stuff. But what about the Pepsi adverts? Can't you give it to other young players who need the money, like Shahid Afridi? Ponting and Mr. Cricket retired, so could he. I think he needs to spend some more time with the Dalai Lama so he actually knows who he is. Dalai Lama, of course, not knowing who Sachin is, not the other way around. Everyone knows Dalai Lama. And last but not least, I think it's purely he is 40 years old. It's time to give it a go. But now, Sean, I've got a theory that the BCCI, the cancerous arm that runs cricket, has control over this, and they won't let him retire. They lost Laxman, they lost Dravid, okay? Those are sort of old pillars. So if Sachin goes, then the old guard's completely gone. And I don't think they can stomach the future of Indian cricket without one of them.
It's interesting, but it's going to have to come to a head at some point if this is true. And I think there's some merit to that conspiracy theory, of course. But like, what are they waiting for? For a guy like Virat Kohli to become like a massive poster boy?
He needs to step up.
Because this is a commercial thing. This wouldn't be a runs making
grass
thing.
Cannot grow in the shadow of a big oak tree.
Deep.
I just made that up, but I think it actually applies to Virat Kohli right there. He needs the limelight in a proper way. He needs to be able to walk in there at number 4 and know that his team is screwed unless he makes 100. That's what makes legends. Doesn't work. Ravi Jadeja's right there to do it. It doesn't work. There's other guys.
There's lots of people in India that play cricket. Lots and lots.
Okay, well, yeah.
What I really don't want is the day when Sachin's age intersects his batting average. When that is going to be a sad day.
It'll be a horrible 45, huh?
Yeah.
Unless 43 is a particularly bad year for him. So you can go read that on thebounce.co.za. Sean, you have, as always, your rugby piece prepared. What we can learn from Super Rugby.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, what we're going to do first, Sean, easy there, building the suspense. Your posts are always worth waiting. We had a pretty interesting weekend of Super Rugby. I got 7 out of 7 on Super Brew. So did 6,316 others, I think. So it's hardly a pat on the back. But still, it was an easier week result-wise. So we're going to look forward to what you have to say about the other sort of in-between-the-line meanings when you come back from this from Coldplay. This was my request for myself. I like this song. Join us after this. What we can learn from week 10 of Super Rugby with none other than simply Sean _ on the Twitter. You listen to Blogz on Ballz. It's a lovely Tuesday. It's about to get even better. All the big tunes today, Sean. Look at that. So it was reminded me of 2010. It was a really great time. Great tune. Music video. Music video shot here as well. There's an elephant running around, riding a unicycle. Yeah. Okay, Sean, into your section. The section that I'm sure your mom loves really, really much. Okay, we have. What can we learn from week 10 of Super Rugby? Far away.
Well, for starters, we can learn it was week 11 of Super Rugby. That's for a start. Even my mom can tell you that.
Week 11, week 10 is followed by week 11. Carry on.
Okay, well, looking through it, as you say, there was results of the week which are probably more predictable than in the weeks gone by this year, which has been a relief to quite a few people playing the Super Brews and stuff like that.
Form actually told for a change?
Form and sense, and looking at the log, actually told. But to get right into it, the first lesson, and then looking at the Sharks game, a game that we all thought a hiding could have been on the cards with all the disruption that have happened in the Sharks game, to put it very, very mildly.
Yeah, and after 17 minutes?
And it was 24-0 at that period of the game. But how did they play after that? Isn't it just wonderful when you just see a bunch of talented guys, and they are talented.
Well, very much. I mean, backs to the wall like at an Elton John pool party. I mean, those guys had nowhere to go, really.
When you just play like there's nothing to lose and just play, I mean, at one point, don't tell anyone, it looked like the Sharks were having fun for the first time of the season.
When's the last time you actually say that about any of our teams that we've seen in a while?
Very seldom. Sometimes the Cheetahs, where I look at it and go, these players are generally having fun the way that they're playing.
Yeah.
And I really got that feeling about, yes, they still lost. And we must still look at a scenario where the Sharks lose a game. Because, I mean, at the beginning of the season, we should have considered these guys as championship contenders.
Completely.
Hell, if they sort their things out, it only takes a couple of weeks to sort out your nonsense sometimes. They could well still be. Who knows?
Yeah.
But just what a lesson it is to show that sometimes just as we said often, just let the boys play. Just let the boys play and see what happens. So many people looked reinvented after they had nowhere else to go but just to play.
Well, exactly. And they did lose by 8, which means they didn't get a bonus point, but they scored 4 tries, though. So they got something out of the game, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much, mathematically, it was the same as losing within 7, for sure. So, I mean, there was kind of job gained in the end. And sure, they conceded tries. At least 2 of the tries that they conceded, I think, can definitely be put down to a new team together that couldn't quite do so. I mean, it was very understandable. So I just thought for a game that looked like it was just totally done, it taught the Sharks an enormous lesson for them and their senior players to take throughout for the rest of the season.
Sure.
The second lesson I learned, which has now become official, which we suspected, that the Australian minnow sides, the Rebels and the Force, really pump themselves up for the Crusaders fixture.
They do. They love playing Crusaders, huh?
It was unbelievable. Who would have thought that the 6:05 kickoff on a Sunday morning for us South African time, Crusaders versus Rebels in Christchurch, would have been the must-watch fixture? Arguably, it was the most entertaining fixture of the whole weekend.
Well, what was it, 30-24?
Yeah. Whatever it was.
It was close. It was mid-20s to 30.
Yeah, a 4-point margin. The Crusaders not getting the bonus point, I think, should be taken as a victory for most South African contenders.
Yeah, but Sean, is it right to say that the Crusaders aren't what they used to be after? Because we always say it at the beginning, right? And then they always fire at the end, and then everyone's like, oh, but they're the Crusaders. But now, like, the cracks are really showing here.
One thing about the Crusaders, which we'll touch on later, their schedule has really, really not been cool.
Seldom is, huh?
They got... Yeah, I mean, they had a bye in the first week of the tournament, which is probably the worst spot to get a bye.
Completely.
Debatable between that and the last week as being a bad spot to have a bye. And then and now they're nearing the end of a streak of 10 in a row. I think it's exhausting. I think that's one aspect to that, and obviously some senior players missing. You got McCaw not available for the tournament. You got Dan Carter, who's got paternity leave, plus a bit of an injury there. I mean, it's right to say that these guys aren't fine, but you have to look at like a team like the Rebels and the Force. I mean, watch the Force and the Rebels play each other. That is just an exercise of pure masochism.
Yeah, it's a punishment to your eyes, sure.
It's like, but then look at them play the Crusaders, and you think, geez, well, if you guys played like this every week, you wouldn't have to play for the bloody Rebels, would you?
Exactly.
Some of them are absolutely amazing. I thought it was just so. I mean, we've all seen the Aussie curse this year, but over New Zealand sides, like they really are dominating. I mean, I think the score is 8-3 at the moment. Australia 8, New Zealand 3 for the matches.
That's
won.
crazy.
That's an insane statistic at the moment.
Not helped by the Highlanders.
And they got the Brumbies next week away. The Crusaders. And if they can lose that, then their playoff hopes starting to look slimmer and slimmer. And who would have thought that?
As a Stormers fan, I'm not so bothered about that.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind the Crusaders. You always got to be scared of the Crusaders. I think anyone who's not a fan of the Crusaders always should, and not in a sick way, celebrate when they are out of contention. Because
it's healthy rivalry.
They are just the scariest of the bunch.
Yeah. Lesson number 3.
Moving along, lesson number 3. The Bulls game on Saturday against the Waratahs, which is a very good game played by the Waratahs, not trying to be patronizing, but it ended up being a really good game of rugby. Possibly, we wouldn't have expected that like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
No, of course not.
Coming up with. But the Bulls, looking at that game, I thought I thought they closed the game well. I thought the Waratahs were getting them in trouble, but looking at how reliant they were on Morné Steyn and Joandre Krier to get them out of trouble, we're going to see the Bulls are going to have a problem rebuilding again in the future.
No, I totally agree. I think the moment when they scored that runaway try against the runner play, the Waratahs, if Louis Fischer was in the field, the Bulls would have lost that game.
Yeah, and those key steals by Joandre Krier in the line-out, that kind of, Victor Matfield-esque light.
That's what big teams do, but you're right.
These guys are going to have to be replaced. So we were always saying, well, it'll take a couple of years, but there's such a huge conveyor belt of young talents at the Bulls. They're going to come up to a level that they were, or similar to what they were at the time of Matfield, Daniel Rousseau, Fourie Dupré, etc. But losing these two guys with their defections to France is really going to hamper them for next year.
And I think, Sean, we touched on quite a good point last week in saying that the Bulls are really a dangerous side right now, and they showed the Kings, who was bossed like 34-0. The Kings were never even in it, not even close, and these are the guys that drew with the Brumbies. But you can never take anything that seriously in this tournament, because the very next week it's like a whole different ball game.
Absolutely. I mean, we look at their form, we look at the fixtures, and you look at the
brittle
Bulls
again.
Yeah, and you think that they have it quietly well set up to win the conference at the moment. Must be said, with their schedule left, it's possibly between them and the Cheetahs. Our pick for 3rd and 4th at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
it's probably the schedule says, well, they have to be your pick for 1 and 2. Isn't that incredible?
Totally.
But there's going to be, the Bulls fans might have to wait. But until then, looking at them, boy, they've done really well, the Bulls at the moment. The fourth lesson, boy, the Free State bye cannot come quick enough. I think you touched on it in your blog. We've always touched on the season that the Free State schedule is going to be a bit of a bitch. Similar to the Crusaders, they had 10 in a row, which is the longest stretch that the fixture list has offered any team without a bye. You looked at the match situation on Saturday. They were. They got the 3rd try, 45th minute, comfortable lead. It's such a good position to kick on for the bonus point. And it's the Cheetahs here, the best attacking team in the country.
Scored try out of nothing, sure.
But it really did drag on in the second half. And I can't blame them looking at it. I mean, 10 matches on the trot, sheesh. That's like the entire length of the Super 12 in the old days.
I've got to be honest, I started playing Angry Birds from around the 46th minute.
It was a bit of a sit-through. When you've had lots of rugby on Super Rugby weekend, it was a bit of a sit-through, that 7 o'clock kickoff, wasn't it, after 8 o'clock? Jeez.
Yeah, the Cheetahs deserve their bye. Look, they've racked up the points, but now if they can use that bye and come back fresh, again, these are proper conference contenders here.
Yeah, and they got, so after this bye, now the little fixture blocks, should we say, are a lot easier from now on. Now it'll be 4 games they have after this bye, and then it's the international break, which lasts 3 weeks, which is probably going to help the Cheetahs more than most in terms of resting players, because they're going to have less players in the Springbok quad, in all likelihood. So they could be well fresh and recharged for their last couple of games before they kick on. So it's been hellish to get to this point, and the Cheetahs look exhausted, but great timing for the bye, and they could sit back and kick on.
Yeah, I agree for them. The Cheetahs should need a bit of good fortune at some stage in this tournament. You think how many key players they've lost in injury, like sort of cock-blocking any sort of momentum they're ever going to take forward. The guys need a bit of a break.
Absolutely, and thinking about those key performances of Burton Francis after Johan Goosen was out, and just how depressing their injury was. He's become such a golden boy of South African rugby, let alone Free State rugby.
Completely.
Yeah, and the final point, a charge down. Seeing a charge down conversion, how fantastic was that?
Yeah,
it just adds another little element to rugby, doesn't it?
Again, it is. It's we touched on it earlier, but commitment, and it's great to see someone like Brandon Banner, because like a charge down, people are so blasé about it. Oh, we'll never touch it. The guy is in his he's 30 now, 29. Still giving it everything. Such a great example to young players, and we don't ever say that. We never say the guys being great examples. You
see a lot of guys kind of just charge the kickoff, as you say, like a cursory charge out of the kicker of the conversion with no hope of doing it. I sometimes think it's just to kind of show the coaches, ooh, look at me, look at my commitment kind of thing.
Or you're just bored and you want to run. Like sometimes, especially in SA rugby, wings don't get a chance to sprint.
Absolutely, yeah, the way we treat them. But like, what a key charge down. It only reminded me, in my rugby watching history, which is over like 20 years of just my couch potato viewing, I can only recall 3 charge downs, that being the 3rd. There was one in the 1995 third place playoff between England and France in the World Cup, and the Barbarians game between Australia and the Barbarians, of course, in 2011. That was quite a funny one, because James O'Connor had quite a elaborate routine in his run-up, and of course the law says you can start charging down a kick from the time a guy starts his run-up. And it was so elaborate that the scrum half, Peter Stringer, ran up to the ball. James O'Connor hadn't even kicked it. And Peter Stringer just picked it up.
Yeah, he picked
Charged
it up.
down, perfectly legal.
Half time.
And half time. And then that running man technique of James O'Connor was ditched after that.
Pretty much. Right, you can go and read the entire piece at simplysean.co.za. Yeah, Sean writes this every Monday afternoon. You can pick up what's happened in Super Rugby over the weekend. Just go onto his blog, and Sean's writing is, well, let's just put it this way, it's very, very worth reading. So we're going to come back with Keegan Kruger after this from Arrested Development. Everyday People. Keegan's our football analyst, specialist, expert, and there's a lot of football to get through. You listen to Blogz on Ballz, ballz.co.za. Tell your friends, go on, get more people in the office listening. Their days are boring. Look around. They're all on Facebook. Share the love. That song is so much slow as a radio edit. Always remember that as a decent house remix. Anyway, Arrested Development's playing it up here. We're going through the best of Ballz today on our playlist. So if you do have a request, tweet me at @followthebounce. We've had a request from Metallica. They were here last weekend. Ryan Livy listening to us ask Metallica. We'll see what we can do, Ryan. Keegan, are you there with us?
I'm here.
Fantastic. Keegan, all the way from Cape Town, where the Skype is pretty good. Keegan, sure, we do have quite a lot to get through in the far as football. We've got Champions League, we've got relegation battles, we've got championship spots for Premiership, and we've also got old geriatric men coming out of retirement to be goalkeepers. How's that for an intro?
I knew you would have missed that one.
Well, let's actually start with that. Andre Aronsa, who is one of the in-studio guys for Supersport, goal coach, Supersport. No, sorry, at Wits.
Wits, yeah.
At Wits. Okay. So what happened is that, correct me if I'm wrong, any stage of my sort of opening here, their first 4 goalkeepers of all, basically, they're all injured. The last guy broke his leg. Very tragic right at the end of the game. So they've now got a 17-year-old guy who is now their first choice keeper. So it was quite funny. I listened to Andre actually on 5FM this morning, and he was saying that we haven't got a goalkeeping crisis, we've got a goalkeeping concern. No, dude, you got a crisis.
That's a crisis.
You are being considered, there's a crisis. You're 45, you're retired, and the guy ahead of you is 17.
Yeah, you're thinking of replacing a kid a third of your age.
Yeah, they got a serious problem down at Wits. Apparently, they were all the last 3 keeping injuries have all been freak accidents. Like literally, it's just something that's happened on. Well, the last one happened in the game, but the other 2 I think in training grounds injuries. And the only keeper they have left is a 17-year-old. He's the only one fit enough to play. So they've registered Andre, as far as I know, but apparently I have been reading reports that the past 2 days they've been looking at free agents to stand in for the next 4 remaining games.
So if you're a 16-year-old goalkeeping club in the area, keep your phone on.
Yeah, I mean, I actually saw a piece or whatever. He was actually asking the boss not to play him at all. You know, when you're 45 and you're begging not to play, then
no, he was. He was saying the same thing this morning. He was like, "Well, hopefully, I won't even get onto the bench."
Then you know there's a serious crisis, especially when your goalkeeping coach is praying not to get onto the park.
Oh, yeah. Keegan, we're not going to go dwell too much on the local. Big night for Champions League tonight.
Yep, big night. German sides. It's been all about the German sides the past few months, and they're really showing why they are the best in Europe at the moment. Tonight I sort of see. I can see Madrid getting a result tonight, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to see them through, to be honest with you.
Well, that's what we're talking about. If there was a game to be overturned, Real's probably got the fighting chance here with the away goal and slightly weaker opposition.
Yes. Well,
slightly.
It's really difficult to see who's the weaker one between the 2 German sides, but I must say I'm loving Dortmund. I'm loving the way they're playing football at the moment. And you've got to say Real's got the Jose factor, and when you've got Jose in your corner, anything is possible. You can be a complete flop, or he could pull miracles out of his hat. So yeah, I'm still sticking with the all-German final.
Yeah, and it was about over a month ago that you called that here on this very show, so I'm hoping for the same.
I'm hoping it comes through. I know another writer for us, Frauners, he put he actually forgot he put money on an all-German final at the start of the Champions League. So you can imagine how excited he is.
Sweet.
You must have got decent odds on that.
To this day, I still don't know what those odds were, but I sat and watched the Arsenal game with him on Sunday, and we had a good lot. He's praying for that all-German final.
Well, it's on. I mean,
I just hope he does actually have a bet on that, and he wasn't just making it up.
No, I think it is because I think he was sweating the other night a little bit when Real got that away goal. I think he thought that there could be a one German, one Spanish in the final, but I don't see it happening. I really think Dortmund will see it through. I think Bayern already have got both feet in that final. As you said earlier in the show, Messi's not at his best, and when he's not at his best, Barca aren't at their best. And I think Bayern did something that PSG couldn't do, is just put that last nail in the coffin.
Sure.
And I really don't see Barca coming back from it, even though they're at home, and we all know what Barca can do at home at times. But I think it's all German this year.
Keegan, tell us why you think that it's been this way. So now we're counting our chickens slightly, saying that the Germans, there's going to be an all-German final, and that they're going to go through. Why this changing of the guard? Is it the Bundesliga is just more competitive more than La Liga, and that's caught up on the top teams in La Liga, or is there a shift in style of the future of football? What do you think it is?
I think it's got a bit to do with both, actually, Sean. I think ever since, what is it, the 2000 and the last World Cup in Germany, I think 2006, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
It was, Germany really felt they had the names that were in that side.
It's very young, if I remember.
Very young, and there wasn't really apparently they were very, very upset with how Germany played in that tournament and where they ended up. And as far as I remember them playing some decent football in 2006 in that World Cup. But after that disappointment, they sort of went back to all the clubs and the structures, and they tried to change things up and try to get more youth development going. And I think since 2006, a lot of these sides like Dortmund and Bayern and that have really gone back to their youth setups and tried to fix them in a way. Remember, Dortmund was almost bankrupt a few years ago.
Yeah, this is the one thing to remember about Dortmund, is the total resurgence that happened. It's been a real sleeping giant.
They went down the league. They were basically almost bankrupt. All they had was they work with it and talent to get them where they are now. And these are the guys that were in that system. Got to understand, a lot of these Polish players and things, they were all been playing at Dortmund for many years, and they're starting to bear the fruits from very interesting guys. You've got a centre. He's paid for go to a transfer market and passing game, but they're extremely powerful on the ball. They're difficult to knock off. They're difficult to play around, and I think that's the style of maybe football's going in the next few years. I mean, I think it might be something that obviously the English clubs are off the mark completely at the moment.
In Europe,
In Europe, yeah. I think the boring tick-tack of football is over, hopefully.
It's just gotten so boring the last couple of years, hasn't it?
I can't watch it anymore. I'm really bored stiff of watching.
Speaking of which, obviously the league's done and dusted. Man United have won, but by not beating Arsenal over the weekend, they can't eclipse Chelsea's highest score of log points. But now, very interesting how it's going to go between... Chelsea looks like they've secured that sort of Champions League spot for next year. Arsenal and Spurs, however, that's where the big tussle is coming in. What are the fixtures looking going forward, Keegan? Is Spurs going to do it, or Arsenal just got an easier run?
I think it's a bit of both. Spurs. That Spurs Chelsea game is going to be massive. That's one that's really going to be a big one. I think it comes down to this weekend. To be honest with you, we've got if United beat Chelsea, if United beat Chelsea and that, I think it sort of opens everything up again for all the sides. I'll be honest with you. I think I don't want to say this, but I think Spurs are going to probably be the one to miss out again. Arsenal have looked good. They played quite well or quite nicely against United on the weekend, and I think both sides are probably just a little bit off the marker to actually go on and win it. Spurs, last week, I mean, I know they got their own goal that got them the point, but they need some upsets. They need some help from some other teams, I think, at the moment. I think you're right. I think we're probably going to see Arsenal and Chelsea take that Champions League spot.
Oh, fair enough. Not gonna argue with that. Keegan, what else have we got to look forward to this weekend, though, as far as football? Is there any local attractions we should be looking at?
Tomorrow night there's Kaizer Chiefs Ajax at Cape Town Stadium. Apparently there's about 19,000 tickets sold for it, so it should be a good day out.
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good number.
Yeah. Oh, we can't forget about the good old Aston Villa game last night. I hope you guys caught on that.
I did watch a bit of that.
They're not going to get relegated. 6-1, blah, blah, blah.
Another brilliant hat-trick in the Premiership, which is nice to see. But the thing in England is that win has just thrown Newcastle and Sunderland back into the relegation fold.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
That's something to really look out for. I actually still got a feeling Sunderland go down. Don't ask me why.
Well,
I have.
Well, now with Sunderland, who knows?
They were going down quite hard last night, from what I saw.
They were. You're correct. But I think on the local side, sorry Ben, I think the local scene is sort of wrapped up. I think Chiefs wins the PSL. Hopefully Ajax stay up. I've been praying for months now. I think Chipper will be doomed if they lose to Pirates this weekend, and hopefully Leopards play in that playoff place and Ajax stay up.
Yep,
it's the one playoff place, right? Like, so bottom of the PSL gets relegated automatically. The 16th, 15th plays in relegation. Playoff 14th is safe of any of these kind of fixtures.
That's correct. And as long as Ajax stays out of that a relegation or playoff place, I'm pretty happy for this season. But I hear there's lots of drama. Today again, I read a post that Ajax Amsterdam are thinking of pulling the plug, and things aren't looking good down here in the Cape.
Okay, Keegan, well, we'll have to cross that bridge a little bit later. Where can we find your latest writings? The Punistas.co.za again?
That's correct. We just got a bit on how the relegation, the PSL relegation works. Football pieces there. We've got something called a foot tea as well, which Wallace found. It's a bit of a mixture of golf and football. Don't ask me what it's about.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't got to that yet. I know you tweeted me the link. It did sound quite interesting.
I thought you might be horrified by it. And you've got, that's about for this week so far. We've obviously have our other posts that come up regularly. But you can catch us on the Pundits.co.za, and or you can catch me on Twitter at Keegan Kruger. And that's about it for the day.
Great, thanks Keegan. I know that relegation stuff's always very interesting when it comes to the end of the season. Titles sewn up.
Excitement is.
Yeah, that's where the tears come. Speaking of which, we've got Queen, Another One Bites the Dust, playing out Keegan's feature here. Keegan, thanks so much. We'll catch you next week with a bit more football.
Cheers, thanks.